Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dana and today we've got an interesting one. I am going to be talking about skincare content as a creator here on YouTube and kind of on Instagram, but not really. And I'm going to be talking about honest skincare in a sponsored world. So I feel like that the title, the thumbnail, it all gives you an idea of what we're talking about. But this is a huge topic, and as what's called like a micro influencer. Actually, I think I passed the micro influencer level because micro influencer, at least on YouTube, is considered 10,000 and under subscribers. And now that I'm at 11,000, I am what we would say as big time. No, I'm kidding, obviously. But I'm still a very small creator in a world where, you know, people have millions of subscribers and followers on TikTok and Instagram, wherever. But I wanted to kind of give my thoughts on how you can remain an honest creator, how you as a viewer can interpret our videos, because I know a lot of times you see a sponsored ad from whoever, it can be skincare or not skincare, and you just write it off immediately. And I want to caution you against doing that, but I also want to give you like a little bit of the background on what it looks like when we as creators get a sponsorship opportunity. What kind of details we go through, is there a contract, what do we have to do, are there, you know, talking points, all of that, and I'm gonna get into it right now. So if you are interested in this kind of video, definitely give it a big ol' like. Let me know below your thoughts when you get to the end of the video. I love when people get to the end to leave their comment, because other times if you leave it in the beginning, I may cover that topic throughout the video. So wait to the end, comment then, and we'll get going. Okay, so I think the most important thing is, can you trust a sponsored video? Like, it's a pretty clear thing, yes or no. Most people either click out immediately, or maybe they stay tuned. Maybe they watch it, but they don't actually buy, that kind of thing. They think about it. So I think while I say there are two obvious answers, yes and no, there are actually a lot more than that. But I think it kind of comes down to trust in your creator and whoever you're watching. Hopefully, if you have subscribed and you're watching a video or you're on TikTok or Instagram, you trust that person. But I know a lot of times maybe you followed them for a while and they changed their content, or you just, I don't know how you ended up watching this video and you're just here and you're like, do I trust this person? That is a legitimate question. My advice for you is going to come later, but I think the biggest thing that you have to ask yourself before you just write it off is, has this person led me astray before? Are they that type of person? And we all know who I'm talking about. There are so many creators out there that it feels like they're a used car salesman. They are just selling you one thing after the other. The next thing is the best thing they've ever tried. And then the next day, it's the same product, but it's the best thing they've ever tried. So like, there should be some red flags in people like that, without going into names, but we all know creators like that. So I think the first thing that we want to say is, are they honest and are they intentional about how they use their platform? After that, there are a lot of reasons why you don't necessarily want to purchase from a sponsored video. Maybe you have every moisturizer known to man and you don't need another. Of course, you shouldn't just buy it because it's sponsored and you like that creator. If you don't need more, we don't need to create that overconsumption anymore. Like, it's a big problem, myself included. I'm trying to do better. So that might be something. They also, maybe they are having sponsored video about something you just don't need. Another reason. But I think the more important thing comes down to, can you trust that person, that creator, and can you support them in some way? It doesn't always have to be monetary. You can watch the video, like it, you can comment. Those are all good things that help engagement without actually buying the product that they're selling. Okay, so now that we kind of got into the bare bones of it, I do want to talk about the rise of sponsorship in skincare, sunscreen. You know, beauty is not new, but I think skincare and sunscreen have become bigger in the last few years, and the rise of sponsorships that goes with that. So I think it's pretty obvious that we all know that this is a thing. This is not new. And more brands are doing sponsored or gifted or kind of like affiliate type marketing, which is very different than your traditional print marketing, and also maybe like commercials on TV. I think more and more people just are not really watching those mainstream media sources. So those commercials are kind of, not to say they're going unwatched, because people do watch it, but more and more we're living on social media. So that is where the brands are going. And it makes a lot of sense. The other thing, if you didn't know, I'm just gonna go through this briefly, but Creators make a lot of their money off of sponsored ads. This is, if you are a bigger creator, you are not necessarily living off of your AdSense. AdSense comes from YouTube and Google. That's how many views you're getting on your video. It obviously helps. Like, it's not a bad thing. You're making money kind of passively. It's just coming in through those views. But for the most part, you want some sponsored videos because those are giving you the lump sum amounts of money. And it's a little bit easier to base your life off of that if you are a full-time content creator than kind of waiting each month to see how much AdSense you get. For me, I make AdSense, which is a wonderful thing, and I definitely appreciate it, but it is not my source of income. If I had to live off of that check, I would not be in this house. I would not be doing what I do. I just wouldn't have the money to do almost anything because it does not pay the bills. So just take that into consideration when you think of somebody doing a sponsored ad. But I also want to kind of like caveat that when we think of a sponsored ad, it's no different than your favorite movie star who maybe did like a DIOR commercial back in the day, or on like Vogue. You're skimming through the pages and you see Cameron Diaz. That's like really old school, but whatever. Cameron Diaz wearing Chanel lipstick on a print ad. It's no different. So the fact that creators really get a lot of flack for doing it now, when obviously movie stars, celebrities have done it all throughout all of time and not really gotten flack for doing it, is kind of a testament to, I think, the viewer more than the actual creator and person who's doing the sponsored ad. Because it, like I said, it's no different. I guess the one difference is that you see this is an ad. You're looking at the magazine and you know in your brain, this is an ad for Chanel. Versus a lot of creators are very sketchy and a little shady about how they disclose their ads. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But so there is a difference, but I think at this point, this day and age, hopefully we are all just a little bit more aware of what's an ad and what's not, even if it's on Instagram versus in a magazine. So I do want to caution people into like just throwing it out wholesale, because this is a way people make money. And like I said, it's not any different than how people have done it for years and years and years. But also, creators need to disclose that. It is an important thing, and it's something that kind of builds that symbiotic trust, even though it's really just the trust in the creator more than anything. Okay, let's talk about some brand expectations and also what's the pressure that creators face from these expectations. So what are some common expectations from brands? A lot of brands will send me a script or scripted talking points. I always counter that by saying, I don't do scripts. I don't know. Have you guys met me? Like, I talk off the cuff. I make mistakes. I also feel like it's just a more honest, genuine way of interacting. I could never, ever, ever, it's my personality. I'm a Gemini. I couldn't write a script to save my life. More or less could I read off of that script. So that is a common practice and a lot of people love it, and I'm not like knocking it. I just don't do it. But I have gotten many, many scripts in my life, and instead I turn around and say, hey, here are my kind of outline, my bullet points for what I'm going to talk about, but I don't write a script. So if that doesn't work for you, then this is not going to work for both of us. This may come of no surprise, but pre-approval for content is usually a must. It's just, I mean, I understand it. I think it's a very basic thing and we can all kind of understand it. A brand that is paying you money, much less, sometimes even if they're paying you in products, but usually less so, if they're paying you in actual money, they want to see what you have made before you post it. And I get that. Like, what if you go rogue and you talk how much you hate the product and you already have that money come into your bank account? Obviously, they don't want to approve that. So that is a very basic thing. I don't think it warrants a lot of in-depth discussion about, because just like anything, you need approval before you post something. Not anything, but like if you have a big project at work, you're probably going to get approval before it goes to the leadership team or something like that. This also may come of no surprise, but positive language when you're talking about the products. I mean, honestly, I do actually tell brands often that if they're sending me a set of products, maybe like a collection of skincare, I say, I'm not guaranteeing, nor can I guarantee that I will love every product. First of all, I have to test them, but I don't say that I'm going to give a rave review on all 5 products from that line. But a lot of brands require that. And I do think it makes sense if you're doing an ad that you like the product, but maybe I'm a little too honest, because I know so many times the creators do not do that. But that's when it comes down to that judgment call. Do you trust and believe the creator or not? The other thing that I would say is kind of true, but also it really depends on your level as a creator, the product, the brand, all that, is the turnaround time. I've had offers before where the brand says, okay, we're sending you this 7 days after you receive the product. We need the first cut and then we'll approve it for like a launch a week later. And that is insane because we're talking skincare here and I cannot get my thoughts together in a week, much less do a video and all the other pieces. So there are times like that. There are also other brands that understand a better, more long-term review looks better for you, for the brand, for everyone. So that can range, but also I have people that I feel like have never tried skincare and they don't know what they're doing and they just say you can get a week turnaround. So that is a thing. The last thing about really the pressure that creators feel when it comes to this kind of thing is, are you brand friendly? And I would go so far to say is I'm not always. I don't talk about, I would say 80 to 90% of the products that I get and try because I have other things in my life. I don't have time to just film videos all day. But I try to kind of just talk about the best, the cream of the crop. So I would say that a brand is not gonna always reach out to me because they know that I'm not just like spouting out things over and over. I'm being a little bit more intentional with what I put out there. So you definitely as a creator have that kind of like, am I making myself marketable for other brands that want to work with me? And honestly, that's one of the reasons I do love the fact that I don't do this full time. I don't have that pressure. I don't have those demands and I can work with whatever brand, I mean, not whatever brand, but I can work with the brands that reach out to me that I really trust and admire versus just having to do the deal because I need the money. So there's always that pressure, but that kind of goes for almost every business and walk of life. Okay, this one can get a little controversial, but let's talk about some FTC guidelines and why they do matter. So FTC in America is the Federal Trade Commission, and it does state, and it's a growing, expanding, always changing kind of field within social media because it is such a new realm. So those guidelines are there for creators and we are supposed to clearly disclose and also, this may come as a surprise, but have no misleading claims. Now, the no misleading claims is a hard one because I think if you as a creator are just copying what the brand said, but the brand has misleading claims, who's to blame? It should be the brand, but like as a creator, you could be in trouble with FTC. Whereas I think the clear disclosure is the most obvious and easiest one to get around. A lot of people, you've probably seen those videos where they will hide ad in the very top of their Instagram post and it's like the same color as the background. They've done it, but it's not clear. They've disclosed it, but it's not clear and obvious. So other times you can see that they have done, what's it called? Like partner, that's the word. I was looking for that earlier. They'll say like L'Oreal partner. That is a sponsored ad, but it sounds a lot better to a lot of people because it's like, oh, we're just partners. I'm not making money off of this, but they are. So there are kind of some tricky ways. And I feel like the second you see that from a person, that's it. That should be the end. They should never get your trust again. Every time I've ever had a sponsorship, which is, let's see, like I could count on one hand, I think. I don't do a lot of sponsorships, but I also don't get a lot. And I'm fine with that. Again, like it's not a big deal. But every time I do that, it says in the YouTube description, I have to click a little box that this has been paid for by the brand. Even when you do receive gifts, like the products that I receive, you should be disclosing that as well. So I'll do on Instagram like PR that I get in. I make it clear this is PR. I also say, sometimes I do like a big haul and it'll be like one page or one story is PR. And then the next one I'm like, I bought this. So I try to make it very explicit. I don't mark like PR, hashtag PR. I just say in the title or not in the title, but the comment that it's PR. Because I think, you know, it's important to say that it's PR, but at the same time, I'm not really being paid for it. So I don't have to say ad. So there are some nuances, but it's just wanting to make sure that it is pretty clear and a distinction from just me showing, I don't know, my phone, which I bought, nobody paid for. You also, for YouTube videos, will have to say at the beginning of the video, for the most part, that you are working sponsored partially or the whole video is sponsored by the brand. And for example, I've done that with Ana Luisa. They sponsor quite a few of my videos, or maybe like a handful, less than a handful every year. So like the last time I did a video on these earrings, I'd say thank you so much to Ana Luisa for sponsoring a portion of this video. They didn't pay me. And that's the thing, like I think a lot of creators would actually try to like push back on that because they did not pay me any money. They gave me these earrings. This is a gift. But I still say that I was sponsored in part by Ana Luisa because that's what's written in their guidelines, and I'm not going to go against that. And I do think it just makes it a little bit more clear. But I do want to make that distinction again. Like if I say that, a lot of people could be turned off because they could be like, oh, she's paid for this video by Ana Luisa. But really, it was like $50 earrings, which I'm grateful to have and I love, but also that's not really a payment. That's not going to help with my mortgage, you know? So we'll end the FTC guidelines there, but it's also one of those ones that is constantly changing, and I feel like the landscape is going to look different tomorrow and a year from now than it does today. So it's kind of ever evolving. Okay, so how, Dana, do you keep your reviews honest? First of all, yeah, I'm an old lady. I am not young. I've been around the world and I lived in a time before the internet. So I also have a full-time job. Those are all things to keep in mind. I don't need to do this. I do it because I want to and I love it, but I don't have to. And that does make a difference. But I think being raised before the internet and all these things existed, it just gives you a different kind of set of standards and guidelines. Also, maybe the way my family raised me. So I like to think that I'm a very honest person and I am very, very clear in what sponsorships or even partnerships I take and what I don't. Now, you guys have seen last Black Friday, I did a sponsored ad with Current Body for my LED face mask. If you couldn't tell, I love that thing. I've been doing a 90-day challenge. By the time this video is live, that will be finished and I'm gonna be doing a wrap-up video on it. I love that product. I would have bought it with my own money had they not given it to me first. It's just something that I truly, truly believe in. So I think for me, it comes down to something that I truly believe in. But the other thing that's really important when it comes to skincare and sunscreens and all this type of thing, as opposed to maybe like if you're doing an ad for this tank top, is have you had enough time with it? Like I said before, a lot of brands will send you the brief and they'll say, okay, can you post it in 2 weeks? And I say, no, I cannot. Like, I will not be able to give my honest thoughts on it. And I probably will come off as disingenuous and I probably won't sell the product the way that you want me to because I haven't tested it. I don't know if it works. Skincare is such a hard thing because truly you would need to use most products for multiple months before you gave a review. That's not always possible. And like when I think of a moisturizer, I don't need a few months. I know pretty much immediately if I like it or not. But if it's something like for discoloration and like dark spots, I do need a few months. I need to see if it's actually done anything or not. So same with like a retinol, anything with more active ingredients, you need a little bit of time before you can give your thoughts on it. So that's one thing to consider. If you saw somebody get a box in PR on Monday and they're doing a sponsored ad for it on Friday, red flags. That's probably, unless they have been hiding it for months, that's probably not an honest review. The other thing that's really hard to tell is, does that person actually use it and like it? I say that's hard because, especially with skincare creators, we have a lot of products. It's unfortunate, I think it's overconsumption, but it's true, and it's how we get these products reviewed. But it's hard to show you when I use something every single day because sometimes I forget. I'm like, I use it every day. Like, they don't need to know it. It's not fancy, it's not sexy. But that is one thing that, like, if they're showing you it on a consistent basis, you can have a little bit more kind of trust in that it is a product that they're using and really enjoying. Now, this next point is probably, I would say, like the biggest point in this whole video for me. And this is a personal thing, but does the creator give you pros and cons? I say this because just because you say there's something wrong, and maybe wrong's not the correct word, maybe like, okay, this could be improved about it, and then this product would be 10 out of 10, no notes, that kind of thing. I think that is so much more genuine than going off about a product, how it's perfect in every single way. I don't know if I have a product that is perfect in every single way. For example, my LED, my Current Body face mask, if I don't wear the strap around the top of my head, it gets a little loose on the lower part of my face. I think it still works perfectly fine because if you read the instructions, as long as it's very close to your face, but it doesn't have to be sitting right on it, it's still effective. But like if I'm talking to the brand and they're like, hey, what can we do to improve this product? I would tell them that. So there are things like that where it's not to say you're bashing it by any stretch, but you're just saying like, oh, it's 9 out of 10, but if they could just put it with a pump instead of a dropper, I would love it forever. So I think that's really important. That said, not all products have a flaw, but it's more that does this person consistently talk about every product that you've ever seen them talk about in a positive light? If that is the case, run, do not walk. They are lying to you. They should be telling you when products don't work. They should be saying like, for example, me, I love the brand Naturium and Prequel, 2 of my very favorite brands. Do I love every single product that they put out? No. Does it mean that they are terrible products? Also no. It just means for whatever reason they don't work for me or the product's not the best. But like being honest about what's good and what's bad is so, so important. And I think that's one of those things that creators can do to really build trust in their community. The last thing on this topic is your trust matters more to me than money. I know that sounds so cheesy, but like I said, it really goes back to that this is not my full-time job. Now, I think if it was my full-time job, I would still do the same, but I know the second I lose my audience, I have nothing here. So it's taken me years to create this. It's taken me years to get to even 11,000. So I would never jeopardize that by one brand deal for a few $100s or something like that. Like that's ludicrous. That makes no sense to me. Okay. Here's the juice. You know you wanted this part. So what have I turned down and maybe why? So one of the biggest things that I get emails for is LED masks. My video with Current Body did pretty well, especially because they had a Black Friday deal, which is 20% off, and that like people just rush to that for good reason. But all other brands, it seems, now send me proposals to work with them on their LED mask. And I'm just like, scratching my head, like, why would I do that? Like first of all, that makes no sense. Like, why would I come out less than a year later talking about another brand? I mean, like when I've said for years now that I love Current Body, I think it's one of the best out there, if not the best. So I'm like, first, why would you ask that? That doesn't make sense. But secondly, like, I don't want to do that. Why would I water down my content? I would make myself less believable. So I get asked probably a few times a week to do a video on a LED mask, and I just delete, honestly. I don't respond because there's no need. The other one that comes to mind is the brand, well, I'm just gonna put it out there because they kind of treated me pretty poorly recently. Numbuzzin, they are a Korean skincare brand. We worked together, they were gonna send me some products, and I told them in the beginning, they were like, we'll send you the products and then you do the video. And I was like, no. You send me the products, I test it. If I like it, then I do the video. So we had worked it out. That was how it was gonna be. They sent me the products. The product that was supposed to be like the mainstay of the video, the star of the show, was their sunscreen. I thought the sunscreen was greasy. I thought it was less than average. I thought it was beyond mediocre. And I was just like, no, like I don't even want to talk about it. I don't think it's that good. I don't think it's terrible, but I don't think it's that good. And so I was like, can I do the video on the skincare line? Because I like that a lot more. They agreed to that, and then they like passed me off through a few different contacts saying like, we're gonna work with this person now and this person. And then finally the last person was like, oh, everything has changed. We wanna focus on the sunscreen, so we'll no longer be doing the video with you. Now, I hadn't signed the contract, I don't think at this point, but that kind of relationship is not something I want. I had to go through so many hoops to get what I wanted in the first place, and then to basically get like a 1-sentence email ghosting me saying that they were not going to do it. I was like, no more, not doing it. I don't think your brand is that impressive, and just not going to do it. So that's a little tea for you. All right, so final thoughts and maybe a little advice from a creator. My biggest thing, like I said in the beginning, is just because it's sponsored doesn't mean that it's dishonest. So take that with you when you go and watch these videos. I think it's more important that you know who you're watching and listening to versus what they're talking about. I mean, it's all important, and you put all those pieces together to make your final assumption, but you know, people are doing this as a job, and you shouldn't necessarily discredit them just for doing something that they're making money from. Maybe it is their full-time job, but I think it's more important for us to have good radar for people who are honest and dishonest. So not all sponsored things are bad, and I don't think you should be turned off just because someone does a sponsored ad. And then the other thing is, I would say interact with that person. I know some people are so big that like you can't interact, but as you get to know the person, especially in my DMs over on Instagram, I talk to people all the time. Like we have conversations and it normalizes the person. I am not anything crazy. I'm not special. Like I just sit down in front of a camera and talk to you, you know, like that's all it is. So I think getting to know, especially small creators, if they're willing to, is a big step. And then you can ask them questions like, I saw you did a sponsored video on Current Body. Do you still use it? And I would be like, 100%. I just used it for 90 days straight. So I guess the advice is it's not as scary as people make it out to be. But at the same time, if you're watching someone who has like 4 million followers on TikTok, it probably is as scary. And my advice there is micro influencers are way, 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 way better than those big ones. That's entertainment. Just think of it like that. Don't think of it as real advice. I know that sounds terrible, but it's true. So I will wrap that up there. I thank you so much for watching. I hope you do trust me because I try my hardest. I really take it seriously to be honest and disclose everything with you guys. So it means a lot to me. And when I do have sponsored videos, I hope you understand that I took that very seriously and I would never lie to you intentionally. Maybe it doesn't work for you, but like for me, it truly does work and it's something I believe in. So I'll end it there. Thank you again for watching and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.